there was something he needed to get off his chest.
So, the change that I have, I did take the gun and I put it in my suitcase.
Matthew said he initially tried hiding the gun because he didn't want to be blamed for something he didn't do, especially because it was his gun. But realizing that this would only make him look worse, he put the gun back where he found it.
I put it in the suitcase, went back, looked at her, and said, "Yep."
All right, brothers and sisters. We have another one today. We have another video. We have another fun story time that I'm interested to see what go on. It's not even a story time. It's like, this is what blows me. It's like, it's real life stuff. But anyways, yes, I'm not going to talk too much this time. Last time I spoke a lot in my intro. Let's just get right into the video. No chit chats.
Hey, St. Paul Police. Did you hear what happened?
This is Shane Anderson. Shane seems to be annoyed that police officers are knocking on his door, but his demeanor will quickly change from annoyed to concerned when they bring up his girlfriend, 32-year-old Alex Penning.
She okay? Passed away. Alex Penning? You're kidding me.
Just hours before this interaction, at exactly 2:53 a.m., the St. Paul Police Department received an emotional 911 call. The caller reported that Alex had been shot in the head and was now bleeding out on her bathroom floor. Police dispatch notified all units of the shooting. Several officers, firefighters, and EMTs rushed to 260 5th Street East. They arrived within minutes, but had to wait at the entrance of the building until somebody could unlock the door. The caller, 44-year-old Matthew Ecker, let them inside. He was still on the phone with 911. As they took the elevator to the second floor, Matthew started having a panic attack. Prepared for the worst, law enforcement made their way down the hall. They then entered the apartment, and on their right side, a bathroom door was open. Alex was inside, lying on her back in a pool of blood. She had a gunshot wound to her left temple, and beside her they found a handgun. One of the first responders picked up the gun and placed it on the bathroom counter. They then checked for any signs of life, but it was clear that Alex was dead.
It's fine, just you can sit there. That's okay. You gotta keep breathing. You gotta keep breathing.
Oh, God.
I know it's choked. I know it's hard.
Naturally, the officers had plenty of questions for Matthew, but they started off with some basic information.
Is this your apartment or Matt's?
It's hers.
Her apartment? Yes.
First name Matt, is it Matthew?
Yeah.
And what's your last name? What's her name?
Alex.
Were you guys arguing or something?
No.
Matthew was struggling to explain exactly what happened, so the officers asked him to start at the beginning of the day, when he and Alex first spoke. He told them that he lives 3 hours away in Fergus Falls, where he works as a nurse practitioner for Lake Region Healthcare. Around 11 a.m., while he was driving to his shift, Alex called his cell phone.
She called me.
Alex told Matthew that she had gotten into a heated argument with her boyfriend, Shane Anderson, who became extremely aggressive. She sounded scared and desperate for Matthew's support, so he immediately called into work before heading to her apartment.
So I came here. No person got saved.
He brought a registered firearm in his backpack in case Shane showed back up and became violent.
Because I was worried that her boyfriend would come.
Matthew arrived at Alex's apartment at around 2 p.m., 3 hours after she called him. After a stressful day, the two decided to let loose for the night. They headed downtown and visited a few local bars. While at a local hotspot called Camp Bar and Cabaret, they ran into Shane, who was extremely confrontational.
He came to her, they were arguing, and I came across
How does he-
and I stood in between them, and
How
then
did
he
he know
punched
she
me.
was there? How does he... That's not a coincidence. How did he know she was there?
After Shane was kicked out of the bar for punching Matthew, Matthew and Alex hung around for a few more drinks.
And then her and I sat there and talked with other people for another 45 minutes. So we came back here and I thought everything was fine.
But within 5 minutes of returning to Alex's apartment, she suddenly became hysterical.
And then she just grabbed the gun.
Do you believe that? Do you believe that's true? I don't know.
The next thing he remembers is breaking through the bathroom door and standing over her dead body. He tried to plug the wound and apply pressure to stop the bleeding.
I tried to do what I could.
Okay.
And then I washed my hands. And
Then you wash your hands.
Correct. That's why I don't have anything.
And then you call the police.
According to Matthew, he called the police 4 minutes after the gun went off, so Alex's death was at approximately 2:49 a.m. Upon learning that Matthew had washed his bloody hands in the sink, the officers double-checked the sink for evidence. But not only was there no blood, the sink was completely dry. By this point, lead detectives Abby DeSanto and Jennifer O'Donnell had arrived. After being caught up to speed, they began inspecting the scene. Alcohol and prescription medications were scattered all over her apartment. Across from the bathroom was a closet door with 2 holes in it. The detectives wondered if Shane had punched this door during the argument with Alex earlier that day. They asked the neighbors if they had ever heard any fighting coming from Alex's apartment, but there wasn't anything notable to report. The detectives wondered if they could get any insight from Alex's phone, but without her passcode, they were unable to access it for the time being. So, they spoke directly to Alex's family and friends. It turns out that Alex had a history of abusing prescription medication, a habit that started in college. She eventually turned her life around, and in 2019, she graduated from a practical nursing program. She gave an inspiring speech at her graduation.
Thank you to my family for never once giving up on me when many times I'm sure you wanted to.
A year later, in 2020, she was working part-time at a walk-in clinic, the same clinic that Matthew worked at. The detectives learned that even though Matthew was married with 4 kids, he immediately hit it off with Alex, so he began cheating on his wife with her. Although Matthew was happy with this setup, Alex called things off shortly after the affair began. Then, in the summer of 2022, Alex reverted back to her old ways, and she began drinking heavily every day. She was fired from the walk-in clinic and struggled to hold down any new jobs. That's where Matthew saw an opening. He stepped in to financially support her, paying for her rent, groceries, and medication until she got back on her feet. Despite Casanova Matthew saving the day, Alex would come to meet a sweet guy named Shane before the summer was over. They quickly fell for each other, making things official in October of that same year. But according to Matthew's story, Shane became a violent and abusive boyfriend, punching things during arguments and assaulting Alex's guy friends out of jealousy. With all of this information, detectives now had 2 goals: rule out Matthew and rule out Shane. Since there was no evidence putting Shane in Alex's apartment at the time of her death, officers had to be strategic when confronting him. Curious how he would react to the news of Alex's sudden passing, the officers went directly to his apartment and knocked on his door, bringing us right back to the footage at the beginning of this video.
Hey, it's St. Paul Police.
Did you hear what happened?
She okay?
Passed away.
Alex Penning? You're kidding me.
Shane seemed genuinely shocked by this tragic news, but the officers needed more information from him, so they asked if they could continue their conversation down at the station.
I want to know what happened to her.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Okay, so
The detectives asked Shane to tell them about his relationship with Alex. He said that they had met back in August, they saw each other almost every day, and were even planning on moving in together.
Literally yesterday we were talking about me breaking my lease and moving into her place.
Shane essentially had nothing bad to say about the relationship, so the detectives were curious why he and Alex were arguing on the day that she died. Apparently,
You would need to hear both sides of the story to know truly the true relationship. Because if he was the problem, if he was toxic and abusive or whatever, he's not going to admit to that. The very least he's going to say is like, yeah, sometimes we argue, but like, what couple doesn't argue, you know? That's normal. But it never went too far, never, he's gonna save his ass, technically.
Alex was upset
If there's
that
anything.
Shane was taking too long to move in with her.
So did the argument that you guys had in that morning, did it get physical at all?
No, not at all. God.
Shane admitted that they would bicker here and there, but the fights would never escalate to violence because he wasn't a violent person. But the detectives had a hard time believing this.
Yeah.
After all, Matthew told them hours earlier that Shane punched him in the face while they were at Camp Bar and Cabaret.
Alex showed up with like a guy. He doesn't look familiar. I have no idea who this guy is.
He was then asked about the holes in the closet door. He admitted to punching the holes during an argument, but he denied that they happened on the night of Alex's death.
That was from a few weeks back. That was me. I was drunk. I didn't put my hands on her, though.
Even if he had broken the closet door several weeks ago, it was clear that he did, in fact, have violent outbursts within the relationship. Before making any accusations, the detectives needed to gather more evidence, so they asked if they could look through his phone, but Shane had conveniently lost it the night before. Despite all of these suspicious circumstances, Shane was free to go, and the detectives continued with their investigation. While reviewing the photos of Alex's body, they noticed something peculiar. Matthew claimed that Alex was already dead when he broke into the bathroom. If that was the case, her legs would be on the same side of the bathroom door. But strangely, Alex had one leg on each side of the door. The detectives theorized that the door had been opened before Alex was shot. To support this theory, there was Exhibit F-35, a small metal ring from the bathroom door lock that was found directly under Alex's head. It must have ended up on the floor when the door was forced open, and then Alex fell on top of it when she was shot. Little by little, the story Matthew provided was falling apart. The detectives wondered if the night out with Alex had actually
Interesting.
unfolded the way Matthew said it had, so they obtained any surveillance footage that captured the two that night. At the Camp Bar and Cabaret, Shane can be seen sitting at the far end of the bar when Alex and Matthew enter the bar together. Alex notices that one of her friends is at the bar as well, and ditches Matthew to go say hi. But for some reason, instead of sitting back down with Matthew, Alex...
I'm so curious. I mean, it could be coincidence for sure, but like that's a crazy coincidence how they ended up in the same bar. Like it definitely could be a coincidence for sure. Like I'm not saying not, but like that's wild. And like out of all the places to be, they ended up in the same place. That's that. Hey, I truly believe like time and place. Like I believe everything happens for a reason. You know what I'm saying? So unless he has her location, they previously talked about where the other one would be. I don't know. Like, but that is absolutely wild. If there was no attraction to, like, there was no location being tracked, there was no conversations being had that, you know, one of them knew they were going to be there for whatever reason, they went as well. If there was nothing like that, they ended up in the same place. Whew, that's wild.
sits on the same side of the bar as Shane. Shane approaches Alex and begins talking to her. Matthew sees this interaction happening and comes over to introduce himself.
She's
He reaches out-
definitely the bigger problem, I think, between the men. But I do believe she's very toxic. Like, considering the situation right here, you have a fight with your boyfriend and automatically you're hanging out with a man that you've had an affair with. Like, why would Shane not freak out if they're actively together just because they had an argument? That shows a lot about the type of person she is. And even though... And then just when feelings are involved with guys, you know, they do some crazy shit. But I definitely think that she's the main problem, for sure.
to shake Shane's hand, but Shane is not happy. Clearly upset about this random guy, Shane begins arguing with Alex. Matthew then steps between them and immediately gets punched in the face. Alex tries to pull Shane off of Matthew before other customers split up the fight. Shane is promptly kicked out of the bar. Not wanting this fiasco to ruin their night, Matthew and Alex decide to hang out for another 45 minutes. After having several drinks, the two stumbled out of the bar and headed back towards Alex's place. After a 12-minute walk, they enter the apartment building at 2:08 a.m. Nothing seems out of the ordinary. 19 minutes later, they can be seen exiting the building together, leaving the camera's view for a few minutes. Alex then re-enters the building alone. Her body language indicates that she is losing her patience while waiting for Matthew. She begins messaging somebody, but it's unclear who. Matthew returns at 2:33 a.m., and Alex appears visibly angry with him. She doesn't hold the door for him and storms through the lobby. Matthew follows behind, shrugging his shoulders. Clearly, there was some tension between the two as they returned to Alex's apartment, but Matthew omitted this detail when speaking with the detectives. With all of this new evidence, they asked Matthew to come in for an interview. They gave him another chance to explain what really happened.
Laughing, waiting, everything was fine.
You guys weren't arguing or anything? There's no fight with you two?
No, it was good.
Knowing that this was a blatant lie, they started challenging Matthew's claims one by one.
That's not necessarily a lie. He said on the way home. They seemed fine leaving the bar. They weren't arguing leaving the bar, so maybe on the way home. Between that, so, I mean, what it seems like to me almost is that they went home, they went back out to maybe smoke a cigarette or something, maybe. And then something there, when they had came home and they left back for that 20 minutes or whatever, they went back outside, something happened at that time. Conversation, a phone call, a text message, something happened. So on the way home, they seemed fine the first time coming in, but it was when they went back out that something had happened, where an argument obviously, and it did seem like it was more her than him. Like he seemed like, I don't know, like it seemed more about her and then Shane. Something was happening, and then so he was kind of like, well, I don't know what you want me to do about that. You know what I'm saying? Like,
The question they had was regarding the location of the gun. Matthew denied pulling the trigger, but if he didn't, then why was the gun found on her left-hand side?
She's not so weird.
Since Alex's left hand was her non-dominant hand, the detectives found Matthew's story very difficult to believe. They then questioned him about the sink. He claimed that he washed the blood off of his hands before immediately calling 911, but the evidence didn't corroborate.
watch. I know what he's gonna say. That he used the kitchen sink and not the bathroom sink. Watch.
His story.
And then you got the police right away?
And I got up and called the police,
So, when you get blood all over your hands and then you go into the sink and you
Yeah.
pour the handle to the sink, right? There should be blood on that.
There should be
handle.
blood, yeah.
There's no
There's no blood in the handle of the sink.
And there's nothing in the sink. And the sink is
I rinsed my hand.
the sink's dry. There's no water or anything.
No, I washed my hands in the sink. I did.
Keep in mind that the officers arrived at Alex's apartment at 2:57 a.m., just 4 minutes after Matthew said he placed the 911 call. If he really had washed his hands in the sink, he must have waited an extended period of time for the sink to dry up before calling the police. Or Matthew didn't try to keep Alex alive at all and never got blood on his hands in the first place.
Right now, all this evidence does not add up.
I can't.
I just want you to just think. I just want you to think about this and what you're...
You're asking me to confess to something I didn't do.
No, I'm not. I'm asking you just to think.
I mean,
Matthew was clearly overwhelmed by the evidence against him, so the detectives decided to leave him to his own devices to let things sink in.
We're just going to give you some time here just to think. We got to grab that stuff anyway. Think about everything that we discussed with you.
Matthew was given plenty of time to contemplate his next move, and by the time the detectives came back to the room, there was something he needed to get off his chest.
so the change that I have, I did take the gun and I put it in my suitcase.
Matthew said he initially tried hiding the gun because he didn't want to be blamed for something he didn't do, especially because it was his gun. But realizing that this would only make him look worse, he put the gun back where he found it.
I put it in the suitcase, went back, looked at her, and said, "Yep." Went back to the suitcase.
See, this is the biggest problem, right? So I always put myself in these situations, all right? And maybe and definitely, you know what, it's one of those things as well, is that you don't know how you would react until you're in the situation, right? But unfortunately I've been in situations, traumatic situations, where I've had to call the cops, all right? And I know myself well enough, I think. So let's say it's vice versa. Let's say I'm Matthew here, and I got my boyfriend, who I've been having an affair with, who also has this, crazy other girlfriend, like the same scenario, but I'm Matthew, and right. So what he is saying is that he was not present in the room. I guess he heard a gunshot, came storming in the bathroom. So if it was me, if I were heard a gunshot, first of all, how did she get the gun? Did she know that you had a gun? Why? If your main reason was like, I'm gonna have it just in case the boyfriend comes around and starts acting crazy and we need it for self-defense, you don't necessarily need to tell the girl. He didn't necessarily need to tell her that. You just know in the back of your mind, if things go south, I got what I need to protect her, to protect myself. There didn't need to be a conversation, but whatever. Let's say he did communicate. Let's say, whatever. I did communicate. I had a gun for this purpose, and I'm doing my thing whenever I hear a gunshot. I go to the bathroom, and I think, knowing myself, immediately I'm calling 911. I'm not going to try to touch the body. I'm not going to try to see if she's still alive. I'm going to do that. If anything, I'm going to call the police, put it on speakerphone, put it on, because that's such a horrifying scene. I feel like I would call the police, have them pick up. This is the situation, okay? I have whoever I'm with, that doesn't fucking matter, okay? That doesn't matter. At the moment, that does not matter. I have my partner here. I came in the bathroom. It seems like she shot herself. What do I do? Like, there's blood everywhere. The gun is hit. Like, she shot herself. She's making, like, what do I do? Do I do CPR? Like, what, or do I not touch anything? It doesn't seem like she's breathing or he's breathing, or, like, literally every single detail that I know, I'm presenting to them. And I think first, like I said, I don't think I would touch the body unless they give me a go ahead. Unless they say, yeah, try to do CPR, try to do mouth to mouth. I will count, like, but other than that, because I know there's a good chance, maybe the first thing I might do is, like, find the wound and then try to, like, cover the wound to stop the bleeding. That might be what I would do. But, like, I would prefer, not for the sake of myself, like, touching the body, but, like, to know from a professional point of view, what do I do? Like, what do I do? This is my situation. I am not a paramedic. I'm not in the police force. I'm not a firefighter. I'm not professional when it comes to saving lives. So, like, what do I do? What's my step? Do I just wait until you guys get here? Like, what? You know what I'm saying? But he not only Like, the fact that he took the gun and tried to hide the gun is, like, beyond, like, that is, you should never be doing that. You should never be doing that if you're innocent, if you had no part of it. If you're completely innocent, you play the innocent part. Like, you don't do nothing guilty. And if you do, there's a pretty good reason for it, and it's pretty clear. Okay, this looks guilty, but it's really innocent, you know?
I think I put it back there.
Although he admitted to tampering with evidence, Matthew was adamant that he had no part in Alex's death.
I did not shoot. I didn't shoot.
The detectives continued to apply pressure, but Matthew stuck to his story. With no progress being made, the detectives wrapped up the interview. Matthew was escorted to a cell while his charges were being processed.
44-year-old Matthew Ecker was charged with second-degree murder in connection with the death of Alexandra Penning of St. Paul. He faces up to 40 years in prison if convicted.
On February 8, 2024, Matthew's trial began. The prosecution painted Matthew as a cheating husband, desperate to win over Alex because he never got over the fling they had years earlier. Not only did he spend thousands of dollars to keep her afloat during her financial struggles, he also abused his nurse practitioner privileges to refill any medications she wanted. In fact, all of the medications found in Alex's apartment were prescribed by Matthew. Matthew became frustrated when these attempts to reignite their romance failed, and on December 16th, after a volatile night, an argument broke out at Alex's apartment. The prosecution theorized that Alex threatened to tell Matthew's wife about the affair, so he shot her in the head to keep her quiet. They expanded on this claim by highlighting the plethora of physical evidence against Matthew. They focused on Alex's body position when she was discovered, saying that the only way her legs could have wound up straddling the bathroom door is if it was forced open before she fell to the ground. The same concept goes for the...
If she shot herself, the door was already open when she shot herself, and then she just fell that way. But it does make more sense. No, like, either one of those is possible, to be honest with you. It is possible that he stormed in the room, then shot her. It's also possible the door was open. But then I think he did mention that he had to come in the room. So, if that was the case, then he had came in the room, then shot her. Because, yeah, it's not possible if she was already laying there for him to come in and hit her legs are on the outside of the door. That's not possible.
Metal ring found under her head. The door lock must have been busted open before she fell to the ground. They also accused Matthew of washing his hands in the bathroom sink to get rid of any blood or gunshot residue on them. Since the sink wasn't wet, they suggested that Matthew didn't call 911 immediately. Instead, he cleaned the gun to get rid of his fingerprints and DNA and staged it back in the bathroom. Matthew's defense attorney, YouTube star Bruce Rivers, claimed that the prosecution's case was based on pure speculation and told the jury to focus on the facts. According to the autopsy, Alex's blood alcohol level was about 3 times above the legal limit, and she had 4 different medications in her system, clearly indicating that she had a significantly altered state of mind at the time of her death. The defense said that Matthew refilled these medications because he believed that it was best for her, and while it may have been unethical, it wasn't illegal. As for her body position, they argued that Alex could have easily ended up that way from Matthew moving her while trying to help her. They also pointed out that there was 0 blood spatter from the gunshot found on Matthew. But the prosecution had an explanation for this. After Matthew busted open the bathroom door, Alex likely tried to hold it shut to protect herself. But Matthew stuck his hand through the half-open door and shot her in the head. In this scenario, the door would have shielded any blood from landing on him, except for the hand that he conveniently washed. Perhaps the strongest piece of evidence for the defense was that despite Alex's cause of death clearly being a gunshot wound to the head, her manner of death could not be determined. The defense even hired their own forensic pathologist who came to the same conclusion. If 2 qualified experts couldn't deem this as a homicide, why should the prosecution be able to do so? Both sides rested their case and the jury began deliberations. After 9 hours, they had reached their verdict. Matthew Ecker was found guilty for the second-degree murder of Alex Penning. 2 months later, on April 3, 2024, Matthew's sentencing hearing took place. Alex's family filled the gallery, eager to share their impact statements with the court. Her friends Jillian and Sarah went up to the podium together for support.
Countless times I picked up the phone to call Al, only to realize I won't ever hear her voice again. Alex really was a once-in-a-lifetime kind of friend.
During Sarah's impact statement, Jillian looked over at Matthew to gauge his reaction, hoping to see an ounce of remorse. But Matthew's expression remained blank as he listened to the pain and suffering he had caused Alex's loved ones. Mary Jo and Jim Pennick, Alex's parents, told the judge why they believe Matthew should receive the maximum possible sentence.
Our hearts have been broken beyond repair, and the future trajectory of our lives has been changed forever. And the world lost a special soul, and we lost our baby.
Matthew's family was also given the opportunity to say their piece. His mom said that Matthew had a good heart and begged the judge to give him a lesser sentence.
Matt is one of the kindest and most compassionate people we know. He has spent most of his adult life helping people and caring for people. I truly believe that Matt has so much more to offer to this world.
After considering the arguments from both sides, along with the impact statements, the judge handed down Matthew's sentence.
It is the sentence of the law and the judgment of the court that you serve 360 months with the Department of Corrections.
Matthew Ecker was sentenced to 30 years in prison without the possibility of parole.
You are remanded to the custody of the Department of Corrections.
Following his sentencing, Matthew tried to appeal his conviction, but on April 21st, 2025, his appeal was denied. He and his wife separated directly following the shooting, and their 4 children are in her custody. His family has had no contact with the kids since his conviction. And as for Alex's family and friends, they frequently get together to tell stories about her and keep her memory alive.
Ooh. I don't think there's anything else here. Alright. Well, that's difficult. That's one of the most difficult cases, I think, because there is part of me that believes she could have done it. But no, I think he did it. But I don't know. It's difficult, right? Because it's like there is evidence against him. Because who else was there? Who else would be, a suspect, really? But it's difficult because there was so much alcohol in her blood system. There was drugs in her blood system. But no, that's crazy. I do think that he deserved that sentence. I do think that he did it. But it is kind of a difficult situation because I don't think that she was a good person for what she was doing. Being in a relationship, having an affair with a man with, who's married with 4 children, young children. I don't believe she was 100% innocent. It's not like she didn't deserve to get shot in the head and, but she definitely was not doing the work of God. She was doing the opposite, you know what I'm saying? So, don't mess around with married people. If you really like somebody and they really like you and they're married, you'd say, you really want me? You really want to be with me? You get divorced. Simple as that. Like, and that's the lowest I can. That's the most I can do for you. Like, yeah, I like you. Yes, we have a good connection. We have a good energy, but you're married, and like, you gotta have boundaries, people. Like, come on. And this is why I'm so afraid of marriage, bro. Like, it's crazy. But anyways, rest in peace to Alex. Condolences to her family. Even though Shane was violent, I don't think that he did anything to her. I've been violent. I mean, like, it happens, especially if you're drinking, you know. Not that it's okay, but it happens. I don't think that. Because it's like, if he really, I don't know, man, it's crazy. It's really complicated, you know, and unfortunately with a lot of cases, you really are never going to know truly what happened unless you're one of the people involved. Unless you're one of the, like, unless you're Alex or you're Matthew, you don't really know really what happened. Matthew knows what happened. Whether he chooses to share it or not is up to him, right? So the truth lies in his hands. Now, he could have been telling the truth about everything. But if the evidence kind of points the other way, and it could have been the truth. Like, her legs could have ended up like that, and it could have been, you know, one of those really small coincidences that just seem to happen. It goes against him, but, you know, only Matthew knows what happened. You know, so, yeah. But anyways, another video. Thank you for watching. Give the video a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. Just try to support me in any way possible. I really appreciate that. You know, comment if, you know, you have any opinions or commentary on the video, or anything that I said maybe you disagree with or you agree with. Other than that, thank you for watching, and until next time, peace out.